It's the OCG Fam Show. It's kind of a thing about pH today. You just gotta watch it. Hey there, I'm using the missus's cup. Don't tell her. I gotta wash some cups. Hey there, Bob from Oregon's Constant Gardener. Welcome to the OCG Fam Show. To you, my YouTube buddies. What's going on? What are you doing out there? Let me know in the comments and we'll talk about it after the show. Right now, let's just get into the show. Yesterday, we were talking about super soil, using bottle feeding with your nectar with the super soil. I thought it was kind of interesting. I hope you did too. When we were talking about it, that came up in my head, when you're doing these natural kind of things, a lot of microbes out there, maybe out in the garden, maybe in the doing more natural type things as opposed to really just pounding it with a thing. Does the pH matter? And it was kind of an interesting thing that Scott had to say about that. And I think you'll find it interesting. I sure did. So I'd like you to watch this clip and I'll talk to you after.
Okay, let me ask you about that then. That's an interesting thing I haven't really thought about. If you're doing super soil and you're doing it well and your plants are happy, is your pH probably in line? Or does it not?
Well, it is until you use RO, rain, or distilled water. And that's same. So, another soil manufacturer in this country one of our customers reached out to them and said, what do you do for pHs that are drifting in your potting mix? And they said, your microbes will fix that and balance them. Well, that's a blanket statement of how do you know what my water source is? How do you know I'm not watering phosphoric acid straight out of the factory down well?
Yeah!
So it's a hard one. Yes, I would say naturally microbes have a tendency to balance the Earth's pH. If you're water and you have no calcium carbonate in the soil naturally occurring, so if you're not in the Pacific Northwest where you've got a limestone washout bed all built into our potting soil, you can still become quite acidic, and I don't care unless your microbes are little calcium molecule microbes that are dying and becoming alkalinity. You can still get low pH in soils if you're using RO, distilled, or rainwater and your limestone runs out.
Well, there's this thing of it's organic, it's going to work on its own, but when you go out in the woods, even here, you'll see a big forest and then you'll see a meadow full of grass. I would suspect the pH is very different in those two things.
Oh yeah, well, go underneath your oak tree and your elm tree and your maple tree and do a slurry test. Well, below the oak is going to be more acidic because oak leaves are highly acidic. And underneath the maple, it's going to be more alkaline because it's more of a base pH. So it really just boils down to, yes, the microbes are going to work with that. And we also have to remember that a volcano exploded at some point 3,000 years ago, deposited calcium carbonate all over the land because it exploded rock, and that ash has become part of that makeup. So it is there. pH is just the potential of the hydrogen of that medium. You can have a ton of calcium in there with a low pH because that calcium is not available. It's not soluble. So as the pH is dropping, it's buffering with the limestone that's built into most soils naturally. Like if you test your soil out in the Willamette Valley, it'll have calcium in there that you're like, oh, you got a lot of calcium. But none of it's available until you react it.
Well, and I would also guess that when you're indoors, there's not a lot of nature going on no matter how much microbial life you have going because you don't have a whole biome. You've got a little bucket of soil.
You're not going out and digging up soil from your, the field up the road, because if you're using anything soil out of your yard, that's topsoil they brought in after they scraped all the good soil out of your neighborhood and built your house.
When I dig down into my soil, I get down about 8-9 inches and it's gravel.
That's called, you guys want to build a whole 78 houses on these 4 acres? Here's how we're going to do it. So you don't have real topsoil. You don't have mycorrhizal naturally occurring in your front yard because they've gotten rid of that field.
Yeah.
And they brought in some, cleaned, sterile medium. But if you go out to any farmland, dig up that soil, I don't think anybody's doing that and bringing it home, putting it in their 20-light grow and going, man, this is the best potting soil ever. Just buying bagged soil. Now you're relying on that soil manufacturer to care about what they make, actually input what they say is on the label, and not just here's my 60-yard batch of soil, I'm going to put in this much limestone and say it's in there, because they do that a lot. So it's really understanding your potting medium that you're purchasing and how it's reacting to your grow.
What do you think of that? Informative, entertaining, helpful? Let me know in the comments. Also, viewer questions episode coming up, so throw any general questions down there or anything you want to talk about. I love you. I'll see you tomorrow. The OCG Fam Show. It's pretty good. It happens every day. It's the OCG Fam Show. See you tomorrow.